You know, all around this country, the Second Amendment is under threat. Some places more than others. I feel very blessed in my home state of Missouri. And there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of talk of repealing the Second Amendment. There's a lot of talk of packing the Supreme Court to repeal the Second Amendment. There's a lot of efforts going on that are big efforts to change the Second Amendment. Even little things like specifically addressing guns or parts of guns or that sort of thing is a threat to many people on the Second Amendment. But there is one thing that is already in place in many of your states, cities, and counties that is the biggest threat to the Second Amendment. And in my opinion, if this particular law that I'm about to mention is on the books in your city or county or state, you don't even have the Second Amendment. You might as well just rip that thing up to shreds because it is irrelevant. And that is red flag laws. I don't understand why there is not a bigger uproar about red flag laws. Let me give you a little history lesson. Because ultimately what a red flag law is if somebody deems you dangerous and they go to a judge and they convince that judge that there doesn't have to be, there just might be some sort of danger that you could cause, they're going to come and they're going to take your guns. And you're not even going to know any of that happened. You never had your chance to argue your side in court. You never had due process. You never had anything. Just all it takes is one person to convince one judge that you are dangerous and your guns are gone. Now let's kind of dig deep into this history lesson here. In the 1930s and 1940s, Germany had one of the strongest Second Amendment laws there are out there. It wasn't called the Second Amendment, but they were very pro-gun. Everybody could have a gun. You didn't need a license, didn't need a permit, didn't need to pass a background check. Anybody could have a gun. But what got put in place was red flag laws. And all of a sudden, Adolf Hitler declared that Jews were dangerous, and they took all their guns. And we saw exactly how that played out. But you might say, but that would never happen in America. Let's give you another history lesson. It was determined that the Cherokee Indians were dangerous, and red flag laws took their guns. Cherokee Indians were not savage. Many of them owned banks, owned coal mines, were very successful and wealthy, and as soon as the United States wanted the coals from the Appalachian Mountains, the Cherokee Indians were deemed dangerous. They took their guns and they marched them off to Oklahoma, with most of them dying along the way. Well, maybe that's just one time. Well, minorities couldn't own guns for the longest time. The Sioux Indians were deemed dangerous. They couldn't own guns because of red flag laws, and we saw how that went down. You know, we could go on. All it takes is one federal judge to determine that Christians are dangerous, or that Jews are dangerous, or that a minority group is dangerous. That's all it takes. If red flag laws are in place, and then it's all over. If you have red flag laws in place in your counties, towns, and cities, you don't really have the Second Amendment. It feels like you do a little bit, but again, all it takes is one person to convince one judge to take your guns, and by law, they'll come take your guns. By law, because of red flag laws. It's the biggest threat to our Second Amendment out there, and I am completely flabbergasted on why there is not a bigger uproar on the constitutionality of red flag laws. Taking your Second Amendment away from you without due process because you are deemed dangerous by a judge that you have never met. Love to hear your thoughts on all this. Again, there is no bigger threat to the Second Amendment right now, in my opinion. And it is already in place in many cities and states around this good old USA. So put your comments below. If you like this video, click like and subscribe. If you feel called to support this channel to Patreon, that link is also below. But the most important part of this channel, we take prayer requests, so never hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, love guns.